Welcome back, students. We are now in week 2 and ready for some new things instead of just review. We're going to start with some vocabulary since many of these words will be new. Cellular organization is one of the things that all living things have, no matter how simple they are or how complex. And to start, we can say that things that are one cell big, like an amoeba or a paramecium, are alive, even though they're only made of one cell. And creatures, and I say creatures, meaning animals, or organisms like a fungus or a plant, are multicellular, meaning they are made of many cells. That's why they're so big, but they are also alive. In cellular organization, we can also look at the fact that cells are made of parts. So while they are the basic building blocks of life, they are all going to have things like an outer layer, which is a lipid layer made of fats, and they're going to have instructions inside them like DNA and other parts. So that's what we mean by organization. You are welcome to watch the video here, by the way. Next, inside in that organization, they all contain certain things in common. We are all carbon-based life forms, and that carbon, of course, is something you should remember from your periodic table. We also all use water in some way, shape, or form. And so when we start looking at things in common, it doesn't matter if you're made of one cell or many cells, if you are a plant or whether you are something like a mosquito, all of us use certain things in common. When we look at those things in common, all living things have DNA as their form of instructions. Now the instructions tell us different things, but we all have DNA. All of our cells all have some kind of surrounding layer, and it's made of what we call lipids, and lipids are made of fats. And of course, during this time of the coronavirus, the reason you are asked to wash your hands so often is that soap attaches to those fats and can carry away bacteria and viruses. Proteins are something that your DNA instructs your body to make, and the proteins essentially carry out the work inside your cells. All living things need energy. Now, we covered this during your photosynthesis and cellular respiration unit, that ultimately energy comes from the sun to plants on our planet. And those plants are eaten by herbivores, which are animals that eat only plants, or omnivores, because some creatures eat plants and animals. And then, of course, those herbivores are eaten by carnivores and omnivores. And that then gets the energy from photosynthesis to cellular respiration, where it's used inside our cells. Now, where we're headed in this unit is the concept of evolution. How does that work? So the way it works is that first we have a species. A species is a group of animals or plants or other organisms that are able to breed and produce living organisms that can have babies of their own. That's what a species is. So can I put a polar bear together with a frog and come up with something crazy? Nope. And the reason comes back to DNA. And that DNA gives instructions for a frog and a polar bear that are far too different. So no frog bears gonna be happening. Then, of course, when they have babies, what's happening is that those babies are getting inherited traits. That means you're going to get information from both parents that are given to the offspring, to the child. So the child gets part of the instructions from the mom, part of the instructions from the dad, and that combines in a way that then creates something brand new and different. So while there may be some similarities, you are not the same as your parents. all living things react to changes. So for example, in this picture, if you see something like water, then you're like, oh, I am so thirsty, and your body responds. So you are able to control this response, such as picking up the water, but there's many things that you do that you don't control, such as breathing or blinking or other things. They just happen, and it's because you looked into the light and blinked. It just happened. It's a stimulus, something that kind of was noticed by your body, and a response. Reproduction, of course, is also in common. If any kind of organism doesn't reproduce, then eventually that species will die out. So when we have information from both parents, it gets combined in the offspring so that they have some traits of each parent, but at the same time, they don't look exactly the same. That does work the same for plants, by the way. That's why if you plant a seed from an apple, it won't be exactly the same as the apple that you chose to get that seed from, because it's going to have information from both parents, not just the plant that you got the apple from. And notice that this manatee is not the same as its mom, and same here. Mom is not the same as her babies because they have traits from both parents, but they are similar. And last slide, growth and development. So when something grows larger, of course, it's growing over the lifetime of that organism. You probably started out as between, a couple of pounds up to maybe 15 pounds? That would be a very big human baby. To, of course, grow over your lifetime. And if you look at a plant, it starts out as a small seed and might grow into a towering tree. So that is going to be growth. Complexity, meaning develop, means that you're going to change over your life. So you go from being a small chick that has certain traits like the fluffiness and the short little legs, to changing feathers to a different kind of feather, and the legs change shape, and you become eventually, in this picture, a rooster. And that's because this organism is able to develop and mature over its lifetime. You do the same. When you're born, your nose is that little button nose that babies have, but of course, by the time you're an adult, you do not have that little baby button nose anymore. All right, now we're going to switch to the other slide set that is where you're going to take notes. So we are going, never mind, sorry about that, my slideshow took off on me. All right, anyway, we are going to be talking about the characteristics of living things using many of those vocab words. And we're going to be talking about how do we know when something's alive. First of all, in 6th grade, you should have learned about in your ecology unit that there are things that are non-living, things like rocks and lightning, and things that are living. So those are your abiotic and biotic factors. We are talking about biotic. So we have to decide, why is it so hard to figure out if something's alive? So the pictures down here below are of living creatures called tardigrades. And here's one that is able to walk around and move, but here is one that's all dried out. But we could add water and it will come back, so to speak, to life. So how do we know the difference between things that are alive and things that are dead? So first of all, there are 6 characteristics, and everything that is alive has to have all 6, no exceptions. Anything without one of these 6 characteristics is not considered living. Then it says all living things are called organisms. Okay. First of all, everything's made of cells. So cells contain all those similar chemicals and contain things like DNA. It's just the DNA gives different instructions. That's why different cells are different kinds and do different things. Use and need energy. all organisms are going to use energy to do work, and that's how they stay alive. Sunlight is the source of energy for most living things, with the exception being some creatures that live deep in the ocean near volcanic vents. Plants use the energy in sunlight to make food, and animals get energy from eating those plants, of course. Let's see, I'm trying to adjust my screen to make this a little easier for you guys to see. They are going to evolve based on their surroundings. So species are what evolve over generations, not individuals. And species are going to inherit traits through what are called mutations, meaning changes in the instructions that they get from their parents. That's why, again, children look different from their parents. If the changes in instructions that the children get are beneficial, meaning good, and help you out, then that's going to help them survive and to have more offspring. They are going to be able to react to changes. So again, that is that response and stimulus thing. So you've got to be able to react to your surroundings. So if there is a plant and there's a drought, that plant needs to be able to close the stomata so that it loses less water and hangs on to what it's got until rain comes again. That helps it survive. So that reaction to changes, if you step on something that cuts you, you need to be able to react, pull that, limb, arm, leg, whatever back, so that then you can tend to your cut. So there's reactions that help you survive. Reproduction. You start out with a cell that then splits and of course makes a new one if that is a single cell, or in the case of animals that have sexual reproduction, you add egg and sperm together and that then creates one cell with a full set of instructions, and that of course goes forward to create a new organisms. So organisms produce more organisms of their own kind. And reproduction allows organisms to continue living. So if there is no reproduction, there's no more of that species. All organisms develop and grow, and so they need to be able to develop and grow throughout their lifetime. So in this example, you can see that I've got the tadpole that grows up into being the frog, okay? And it says one way organisms change is by growing. And of course, they may change in appearance, like a caterpillar changes into a butterfly. All right, here's your quick summary. Biologists use 6 characteristics to classify something as a living thing. They need to be made of cells. They need to use energy. They evolve based on their surroundings. They react to changes. They reproduce. They grow and develop. All living things display all of the above characteristics. If they're missing any of them, then they are not considered alive. Now, I wanted to go through the vocabulary and this PowerPoint just with some examples to help students understand. But if you have questions, Miss Vigil, Miss Anderson, and myself are absolutely happy to try and help you understand with more examples. Feel free to email us with anything you want to know. Meanwhile, what you are supposed to do for this assignment is take notes on the 6 characteristics so that you can kind of put that in your memory. And then after that, you want to come up with 3 questions you have. So, even if you didn't want to email us, you're going to need to do it through Schoology. Have a great morning.